Hi, I'm Shashank Bhargav, and you're listening to Three Things, the Indian Express news show. In today's episode, we talk about the sexual harassment allegations against the artist Subodh Gupta and how his case might set a precedent for other Me Too cases pending in the court. We also look at why Google has agreed to remove an anti-India mobile app from Play Store. But first, we talk about disinvestment. On Wednesday, the government decided to privatize three major public sector undertakings: the oil major BPCL, the Cargo Mover Container Corporation of India Limited, and the Shipping Corporation of India Limited through strategic sale and transfer of management control. This was done with the aim of meeting its disinvestment target of 1,05,000 crore for the current financial year. In this segment, Ishan Bakshi, who writes on the economy for the Indian Express, talks about the role of disinvestment in the economy and the extent to which this current move will help the government meet its disinvestment target. Ishan, could you first talk about the details of the government's decision to privatize these three big PSUs?
So this year in the budget, the Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman had a disinvestment target of about 1.05 lakh crores. So far this year, the proceeds from disinvestment have been about 16-17% of that target. And we are already towards the end of the calendar year and middle of November. So you have basically around 4 months left. So you needed a massive disinvestment exercise now if you wanted to achieve those targets. And with this, I would think that the government is always hopeful that it'll be able to meet the disinvestment target, if not exceed the target. This becomes all the more important right now because of the government revenues itself coming under pressure. We've seen the economy slowing down, and that has taken its toll on government revenues, both direct taxes as well as indirect taxes. If you look at the numbers, in the first half of this financial year, the government's gross tax revenues have grown at about 1.5%. That's it. This is much lower than what the budget numbers suggest. So you needed to meet the disinvestment target, if not exceed it. So you want to offset some of the loss that you're going to face on the tax revenue side. Hence this massive push towards disinvesting these 5 public sector entities, 2 of which go back to NTPC, which is another state entity. But be that as it may, this seems to suggest that the government is getting more serious, and there's a certain sense of urgency in the government now that it wants to meet the disinvestment target, if not exceed it.
Could you also explain to our listeners what exactly is the point of disinvestments? Like, apart from the government trying to raise money, probably for government schemes, what exactly does disinvestment do?
Okay. So what is disinvestment? Disinvestment is basically you're selling your stake or your share in a government entity. It's an asset that you have. You're selling it for the reasons that you mentioned. It wants to raise resources, but more importantly, there's this belief that when a public sector entity is taken over by a private sector, it becomes more efficient because you get the managerial efficiencies inside. You want it to be part of the market, play by the market forces, and you want to make the company more efficient. There have been various studies across the world which show that when you sell your company or sell a stake in your company and somebody in the private sector takes over and runs the operations, the company actually becomes more efficient. We have examples of Maruti, like in India, where the government has sold its stake in the past. So essentially what you're doing is trying to make the companies more efficient. Public sector entities are notoriously cost inefficient. This leads to a lot of losses, a lot of drain on the taxpayers' own money. And taxpayers is people like you and me who are paying essentially to foot the company's bill. We've seen this across the sectors, right? You see it in telecom, you see it in aviation, and you see it in all other sectors. So that's broadly the principle behind the disinvestment drive of any government. The other issue is also you want money to invest. You made the point about investing in government schemes. I would rather argue that since you're selling an asset, you might as well use the money that you get from that asset and invest in more assets. Might as well use the money that you're getting to create more and fresh assets that could then be leased out to the private sector, or you can do whatever you want. But you ring fence it basically and not use it to finance your consumption expenditure rather than use it to finance your capital expenditure. Because that is more productive, yeah? That is more long-term in nature.
Okay, so right now, when it comes to meeting the disinvestment target, you mentioned that the government has only met 16% of that. To what extent will this move add to it?
So it's very difficult to say at the moment, but various analysts suggest that you'll get about 60,000-70,000 crores from BPCL itself, and another 8,000-9,000 crores from some other entities, and about 10,000 crores from NTPC's acquisition of the other two companies. So you're looking at roughly about 89,000-90,000 crores The key point to remember is we are towards the end of November. So we essentially have 4 months to finish and complete this sale. It's difficult to see whether it will happen and how it will happen and to whom it will be sold to. BPCL, one can understand because there should be a lot of interest from not only from domestic players but also from international players as well. But it shouldn't be the case of, at the last moment, the sale not going through and the public sector entity coming in, buying it to bail out the government. As you saw in the case of ONGC and HPCL last year, I mean, you don't want that to happen again, right? You want the private sector to get involved in this.
Okay, considering it's at that state, what other companies can the government look at this point to sort of privatize?
Air India has been one perennial candidate for disinvestment, right? There's also, from what I understand, a long list of companies that were prepared. There was a group that was tasked with analyzing the government holdings in various companies, both loss-making and profit-making companies, and suggesting which all assets can be sold off. There's also talk of this asset recycle program. Essentially, what you do in that is that you take an asset, let's say I take a highway from NHAI, NHAI leases it out to the private sector, a private sector pays it upfront money, and so the NHAI gets more money to invest further. So these various combinations of asset recycling, disinvestment, privatization that have been talked about, and from what I understand, there are some companies, the list have been prepared and all that, but what we know for the fact is that only these 5 companies have been put up for the block right now. It's also important to know that the Cabinet Committee on Economic Affairs has also, in principle, given the nod to the government to lower its stake in companies below 51% in select cases, right? This should be also considered to be a good move, because you don't need to go to the back and forth again, take permissions, and you can probably go forth and announce whatever you want to.
Next, we talk about Subodh Gupta. Almost a year back, allegations of sexual harassment had surfaced against the artist Subodh Gupta. The allegations had been posted on an anonymously run Instagram account called Seen and Heard, its handle being @HeardSeenAnd. Shortly after this, Gupta stepped down as the curator of the Serendipity Arts Festival in Goa. Since then, the matter has been taken to the court, with the Delhi High Court directing Google and Facebook to take down the post and reveal the details of the person behind the Instagram account. Pritam Pal Singh, who reports on legal affairs and who has been following this case, joins us to share its details and explain how it can set a precedent for similar cases in the future. Pritam, could you first talk about how this entire matter began and how this was brought to the court?
First, I would like to tell you that in December last year, some accusations were made against Subodh Gupta on an Instagram handle account which is known as harassment, after which he has to face several allegations, and he was even asked to step down from a festival in Goa. Nearly after a year, he has moved the High Court seeking direction that all the posts which were existing till date on the Instagram account, Google, Facebook should be removed. Interestingly, what happened after Subodh Gupta approached the High Court, he was given a interim order, means interim relief, in which the High Court has directed the Instagram account, Hudson and Google, Facebook, to remove all the accusation against Subodh Gupta.
Was that unusual for the court to do?
Yes, it was unusual because this is a sexual harassment case in which the court has to pass the order only after hearing the opposite party, because no one will come in public without having any evidence or any grievance against anyone.
So after the court passed the interim order, what happened after that?
After that, the most important point is that the main grievance of Subodh Gupta was against the Instagram account, but they have not till date made any appearance. So after that interim order, Facebook, Google has approached the court, and the interesting point which everyone is claiming that if such information is removed from online, it will have a chilling effect on freedom of speech and expression, and it will be against the public interest. These are the claims by Google, Facebook.
So I think one of the points that Facebook also said was that if it did take the post down, then it would hinder other people to make similar posts in the future. It would make it difficult for other people to come out and say such things on Facebook again.
Yes, you are absolutely right. In that, Facebook has even cited the national law, and in which they have said that even the international law have recognized that right to communicate anonymously is an integral of a person's fundamental rights. These are the claim by Facebook. Meanwhile, the Instagram account on November 18 appeared before the High Court and said that they will only reveal the information which was sought by the High Court on first date of hearing in September. That they will only reveal the identity of the person behind their Instagram account, Hudson Ann, if the court allows them to maintain anonymity. Court has allowed them to maintain anonymity, but it was of the view that unless the person is given chance to defend, no one can make any such accusation. The judge, whose name is Rajiv Sahandla, he even went on to say that no one can fight against the ghost. And he said that the statement cannot be permitted to indulge in guerrilla warfare.
Okay, so the counsel representing the Instagram handle is saying they want anonymity. Facebook and Google is saying that, we cannot take the post down because it would violate the fundamental rights of people. So where is the case at right now?
And right now, the judge will have to decide whose right is being violated, whether it's Subodh Gupta or whether the social media platforms, or interestingly, even the Journalist Association has moved the High Court that they should also be heard in this case, because some of the journalists are claiming that their right also infringed because they have the right to publish information on authentic papers or documents with them. But now the court will have to interpret the law and will have to establish whether whose right is being infringed or violated, whether it's Subodh Gupta or the social media platforms like Google, Facebook.
Do you think this case can reach a point where the court can actually force giants like Facebook and Google to actually take the post down?
Definitely, if the judge wants and if he finds that there are enough evidence and enough law in place which can be enforced upon the major social media platforms, so that it will even set a precedent for other cases. If Subodh Gupta gets relief and his posts are being permanently pulled down, it means the other many, I think in numbers, 100 people who have been accused of sexual harassment during that Me Too movement, they will also move the court for this kind of relief.
And I suppose once you take such a post down, then journalists and the media also can't cover it.
Till now, there is no direction against any of the media houses. Media houses have been publishing it because they are even carrying the denial by Subodh Gupta. It may take some time, but if the court finds that we should not publish the allegation against him, definitely we will not be able to write anything about Subodh Gupta.
And last, we talk about Google. Google has agreed to Punjab Chief Minister Captain Amrinder Singh's demand to remove an anti-India mobile app called 2020 Sikh Referendum from the Play Store. The application is no longer available to users in India. According to a press release issued by the Punjab government, the app asked, and I quote, the general public to register themselves to vote in the Punjab Referendum 2020 Khalistan. The release states that an analysis of the application revealed that the data of the voters registered on the app was linked and stored on the web servers of a website called yes2khalistan.org. This website is believed to have been created and managed by Sikhs for Justice, a US-based secessionist group that was banned by the government of India in July this year on the grounds of secessionism. After the ban, Singh had said that it was the first step towards protecting the nation from the anti-India secessionist designs of the ISI-backed organization. The Punjab Referendum 2020 is an unofficial online referendum that claims to be working to liberate Punjab, which, according to the campaign's website, is currently occupied by India. This campaign is being organized by the Sikhs for Justice, an organization that was formed in 2007 that seeks a separate homeland for Sikhs. You were listening to Three Things by the Indian Express. Today's show, as always, was edited and mixed by our producer Joshua Thomas. If you like the show, then do subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts. You can also recommend the show to someone you think will like it. Share it with a friend or someone in your family. It's the best way for people to get to know about us. You can also tweet us at Express Audio and write to us at podcasts@indianexpress.com.